What's up guys, my name is Ace, and welcome back to another gun guide. This is the series where I go into great detail with all of the stats of every one of the weapons in CoD WW2. In today's episode, we're going to be covering the new SMG that came with the Resistance event, and this is the Orso. And first up, as always, let's have a look at some of the in real life stats. So the Orso is actually the Beretta Model 38, which is an Italian submachine gun that fires a 9mm Luger at approximately 600 rounds per minute. Getting into CoD WW2, just like with pretty much every gun that we see added post-launch, it's usually based off of an existing gun in the game. And with the Orso, it's pretty clear that this was initially based off of the M1928 Thompson. So throughout this video, I will be drawing a lot of comparisons to the Thompson. We get a damage profile that's identical to the Thompson at 30, 23, 19, and this means it's always going to be a 4, 5, or 6 shot kill. Our rate of fire is pretty fast for the SMG category at 810 rounds per minute, but it is very noticeably slower than the Thompson, which has a rate of fire of 909 rounds per minute. And with rapid fire, that bumps it up to 862 rounds per minute. Our statistical minimum time to kill is going to be 222 milliseconds up close, 296 milliseconds in the 5-shot kill range, and 370 milliseconds in the 6-shot kill range. This time to kill is quite good up close, but once you start dropping off to that 5 or 6-shot kill range, then the time to kill is a lot less competitive. As for headshots, no surprises here. We get a 1.1 headshot multiplier, which is standard, and that essentially means that headshots are generally going to be useless unless you're hitting every single bullet to the head, which is simply not practical. Moving on to our ranges, this is where the Orso actually excels a little bit over the Thompson. We drop off to that 5-shot kill range from our 4-shot kill range at 12.5 meters, and then at 25 meters, that's where it drops off to this 6-shot kill. As a comparison, the Thompson drops off at 10 meters for the 4-shot kill range and 20 meters for the 5-shot kill range. With suppressor on this gun, all of our ranges are reduced by 30%, and with advanced rifling, only our 5-shot kill potential is increased by 25%. For hardcore, we don't get a very good 1-shot kill potential. It's only 12.5 meters, and advanced rifling doesn't change this at all. As for hipfire, it's among the worst in the SMG category, but that's not really saying too much. It's just barely worse than the standard SMG hipfire spread, and it's right in line with the Thompson as well as the WW2. Getting into idle sway, it's pretty much standard for SMGs in this area, which is not very good. It's definitely going to affect your ability to hit your first shot at those longer ranges, but with the recoil that we're going to look at in a little bit here, it doesn't really make sense to be challenging people at longer ranges anyways, so generally idle sway isn't a huge deal. So when we look at the recoil, as you can see here, it is kind of similar to the Thompson. It kicks up and to the right, but it's quite unpredictable. Sometimes it kicks really strong to the right, other times it kicks pretty much just vertically, and this is probably the biggest downside to this gun. It's unpredictable, and therefore it's inconsistent. Moving on to magazine capacity, we've got a pretty standard magazine at 30 rounds with 90 in reserve, and with extended mags we can bump that up to 45 rounds with 135 in reserve. As for the reload add time, this is very standard for SMGs at 1.27 seconds. This is actually right in line with like 4 of the other SMGs in the game, so nothing out of the ordinary in this area, and it's quite a fast reload. And finally, let's move on to some handling and mobility stats here. We've got an aim down sight time of 250 milliseconds, which is actually the same as the sprint out time. And this is more so standard for most of the rifles in the game, although many of the SMGs also have this sprint out and aim down sight time at 200 milliseconds. Just know it's a little bit slow for SMGs, but it is right in line with the Thompson. Our movement speed is standard for SMGs at 100%, and our aim down sight strafe speed is going to be standard for SMGs at 72%. My recommended attachments on the Orso, first up, quick draw. I always run quick draw on my SMGs so that I can snap on a target a lot easier. And then I usually go with one of 2 attachments, either steady aim, because this does have a relatively high fire rate, and therefore when I get into those close quarter situations, sometimes it's nice to just hip fire, and it doesn't have the greatest hip fire in the SMG category. Or my second option is going to be extended mags, because once again, we have a bit of a high fire rate, and therefore if I'm running into multiple enemies, you do burn through those magazines really quickly, and you don't want to get yourself caught running out of ammo after killing 2 or 3 enemies, and then have that 4th enemy pop up. So that brings us to a couple class examples I have for you guys. First up, we have the Airborne Division, which is my preferred division to use with SMGs. And with this one, we're using the Orso with quick draw and steady aim. Our basic training is hunker, and we have a Luger as our secondary and a sticky grenade as our lethal. This is kind of just a standard rushing SMG class, nothing out of the ordinary here at all. Like I said, I like hip firing with this gun when I get up close and personal, and steady aim definitely helps a lot for those situations. Moving on to the second example class I have for you guys, this is with the Resistance Division. I just thought I'd mix it up a little bit. I personally don't like using this a ton, but it's kind of been growing on me a little bit over time here. We kept our basic training skill the same, which is Hunker. When you're playing with an SMG and you're trying to get up close and personal, you're bound to run into grenades a lot, and therefore Hunker is pretty much a crutch perk for me with that. We also swapped out steady aim for extended mags for this particular class. This one, usually you have time to get aim down sight because you have that Sixth Sense-like ability with the Resistance Division, and therefore you shouldn't need to hip fire in many situations. Usually you have time to get yourself aim down sight. And with our secondary, we now get that extra attachment. I really find that steady aim is great as a second attachment on the Luger, and therefore I decided to pop it on there. So there we have it. That's going to cover it for the Orso. Just in case you guys are wondering basically how it performs and how I feel about it, I personally feel like it's a slightly worse version of the Thompson. The Thompson has a noticeably faster fire rate and therefore noticeably faster time to kill, and the only real trade-off to that is you have slightly lower range with the Thompson, but we're talking very slightly lower range, and both of these guns with their super unpredictable recoil, they're best suited up close and personal anyways, and therefore that range drop-off doesn't matter nearly as much. That's not to say that the Orso is a bad SMG and that you can't do well with the Orso. You absolutely can excel with this gun. My only problem with it is it has that unpredictable recoil, which leads to a lot of really inconsistent gunfights. In one gunfight, I just stay perfectly on target and I absolutely melt somebody. In my next gunfight, my gun jumps immediately to the right, throws me off target just long enough to get myself killed, and I don't feel like I did anything differently between those two gunfights. It's just the gun itself is inconsistent. And with that, I'd like to know in the comment section below, what do you guys think of the Orso? Do you agree with me? Do you think it's a slightly worse version of the Thompson, or do you prefer this over the Thompson? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, a like rating is always appreciated, and don't forget to subscribe for more if you haven't already. I'll talk to you guys next time.